Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's go. Well guys, I don't know how to say it too properly, but freaking Chernobyl nuclear power plant was hit today by the Russian drone. We have the CCTV video. I cannot show you the live image, I posted it on my Telegram. Here I can show you still images, and this is the drone, and the moment it went right into the confinement of the fourth reactor, which kaboomed in 1986 and caused nuclear fallout in vast areas. However, the reactor building is still there. There's some of the nuclear elements in it, and to secure Europe from the possible future threats, a special new confinement was built, and Russia hit it with their freaking Shahid drones. So this is the roof in this confinement. As you can see, there was even some sort of the fire. This is how it looks from inside. At least the first layer of confinement was penetrated. And you see what is there lying on the floor. Yes, it is a Shahid drone, which Russia calls Giran or Giran 2, and continue to produce on the territory of the Russian Federation from Iranian spare parts. Here's one more image of how the roof of the confinement was penetrated, and Ukrainian fire brigades are in operation there right now. Luckily, the fire from the drone didn't spread to the other parts. Here's the structure from outside. You can see a big hole in it. International Atomic Energy Agency already confirmed the strike that happened last night. They specified that it was the fourth reactor of Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Why do they put former word here? Because Chernobyl nuclear power plant still works. It doesn't produce energy, but you cannot stop nuclear power plant from the idle state, because it's not just the fourth reactor out there, and the fourth reactor itself still possesses danger. They confirmed that it was UAV strike, and they do not specify the site as usual, but it was 100% a Russian Giran 2 or Shahid drone. And let's check out from what side the drone hit fourth reactor. So the hole is here, and you can see this building. It's a rectangular or square brick look-like building. And if we go to the Google Maps, you can find this building over here. So the hole was here, the building is over here. It's confirmed that the drone was traveling from the side of Belarus or from the Russian side. Again, let me switch to the image so it's 100% correct. What this attack shows us, my friends, that Putin is really willing to negotiate. He wants peace, as Donald Trump says. And by attacking Chernobyl nuclear power plant, Putin really shows his peace intentions. Probably that drone was carrying flowers together with 50 kg warhead. You may say, oh Dennis, Russia did it by mistake. No, they planned it because Chernobyl nuclear power plant is kind of the outcasted in that region. There is absolutely no reason for Russia to send the drones in that particular area. And you know, after all, their Shahid drones are quite precise, so they were programmed to fly there and hit Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Also, I'm sure that drone dived into construction from above. It wasn't just flying straight and hit it. I'm sure about it also because of the internal damages caused. It is from upside down. You may see even some of the structural elements of the roof were bended. So the strike definitely was quite significant. Yes, even compared to the Ukrainian Luty drone, the Russian Shahid drones are powerful. So what do I expect next after the strike? Nothing. Putin is sure that he is now free to do whatever he wants to do. He will still be respected by the world politicians and leaders, even in the United States of America. Imagine what he's done to Ukraine for the last 3 years. Is this attack really outstanding? In a way, yes. But even the International Atomic Energy Agency is silent about the side. Then we see that it was Russia. Or Russia from Belarus, it doesn't really matter because Belarus is like one more Russian oblast. Putin has absolutely no punishment and he is free to do wherever he wants. So the world community is without any sort of the actions against Russia. And the tendency is getting worse and worse, but I'm still quite optimistic because I understand that after all, Russia will be punished, as well as the Russian regime. Well, not now, not this year, but in the future, Russian regime will just collapse, and the destiny of Putin, I think it will not be bright for him. Yeah, I'm quite optimistic about that. By the way, my friends, if you want to support the job that I do here on YouTube, you may join my Patreon page. I'll put it in a link in the video description just below. Thank you so much for supporting my motivation. Alright guys, about the topic of Donald Trump and Putin, their so-called negotiations. Well, yesterday lots of the opinions were said about the stuff. Some start to panic, some were desperate, some positive. Many fellow YouTubers already filmed their videos about the case, and I also mentioned it in my last video. But at the same time, I don't think that something extraordinary or huge happened. It was understandable for me from the very beginning that Donald Trump will speak with Putin. He will even meet with Putin in Riyadh, probably Saudi Arabia, soon. I was surprised that Donald Trump didn't speak with Putin on his first day after inauguration. What is happening that Donny wants the attention? He promised to finish the war in Ukraine, and he actually tries to do it. He tries to finish this war, but how to finish this war properly? He doesn't really care. For Trump personally, it doesn't matter if Russia keeps the occupied territories or not. He wants this war not to be on his way, because my opinion that Trump still has hopes that Russia may play on the side of West against China, but it's total nonsense. Russia is already interconnected to China. You cannot break that relationship easily. It would be easier to put China against Russia than Russia against China. No. Well, it doesn't matter for now. What Trump wants is to speak with Russia directly to convince Russia to stop the war in Ukraine. And Ukraine, as Trump already mentioned, will not play that big role in the future negotiations. Even during his press conference, then Donald Trump received the question whether he sees Ukraine as a full member of those negotiations. For Donald Trump, it was easier to avoid the direct answer on that question. He just stated that Ukraine should stop the war and other nonsense. Well, what I want to say here, my friends, that Donald Trump has absolutely no clue of how to finish this war right now. That's why he tries to find a way out, communicating with dictators. He likes to communicate with dictators, as he did, by the way, with Kim Jong-un. We're gonna return to that case a little later. For us, the main question is whether Trump is going to sell Ukraine for Putin. My answer, I would say more no than yes. To understand the main reasons of why Putin started the war in Ukraine, we should go back in time. That's how probably we're gonna find out how to finish it. So, July the 12th, 2021, 5 p.m., Putin publishes his article about the historical unity of Russians and Ukrainians. In this piece of historical sickness, Putin tried to show the unity between Russians and Ukrainians, that we all came out from the same thing and we all should unite once again, because enemies in the West, they try to separate us to make us weaker and conquer Russia. And Ukraine was taken out from Russia. Ukraine is not Ukraine. West made Ukraine up. They made Ukrainian language. They took the Polish one and partially Russian. They mixed everything, and all of that they've done just to eliminate Mother Russia, to make it weaker. Putin showed many of the enemies like Lithuanians, Polish Lithuanians, Swedes, Germans, and later on Americans. Everyone wanted to conquer poor Russia, and Russia is so saint country that it didn't want to conquer anyone. They just needed peace. But how it happened that Russia is the biggest country in the world, with many of the nations imprisoned in it? I'm speaking about Tatars, Chechens, Kalmyks, Yakuts, and so on. Like, it's the part of the history, it's understandable. By the way, the same bullshit Putin said to Tucker Carlson, who visited Moscow for the interviewing. So why am I telling you this stuff, my friends? Because in the Putin's head, and also in the head of Patrushev, Lavrov, and all of the KGB agents there in power in Russia, they see Ukraine is not a Ukraine. It's not a separate country for them. They want Ukraine to cease its existence. There should be no Ukrainian culture, no language, nothing. Ukraine should be Russia, that's it. And the Russian political elite speaks about it daily in their TV shows. And Putin in 2022 understood, okay, I'm gonna go in and conquer Ukraine with the military force. He tried to do it as a blitzkrieg but failed with it, and now it's a long-term war. And Putin still thinks that he might be victorious in it. So this absorbing of Ukraine is the life goal for Vladimir Putin. While he's alive, he'll do everything possible from any sort of the perspective, political, threats, military, whatever, to conquer Ukraine. Not just Ukraine, he wants to restore his Soviet empire or Russian empire. He wants Russia to be great again, to rule the world together with the major countries like China and the United States of America. It is Putin's complex, and you cannot turn him out from his way. And now across the ocean we have new old political leader, unprecedented president who has his own look on how the world should function. A really ambitious guy who frightens his own allies. But how Donald looks at Ukraine? For sure not from the historical madness perspective of Putin. No, he looks at Ukraine as at some sort of the resource. Give us your rare earth elements, he stated, and even sent some of the financial guy or minister to speak with Zelensky. Well, after all, Zelensky has refused to sign it so far, because Donny, we need security guarantees at first, and then you'll have your resources, okay? So kind of the sad thing here that I see the down of the democracy in the United States, because the new White House administration doesn't see why should they protect Ukraine, like it's the victim country. It was attacked by Russia. Ukraine is developing, going to the west, but it's not enough for Donald Trump. No, he doesn't care about this, and Ukraine in general, he needs resources. So Donald Trump lives in his understanding of reality. It is not right. And Putin lives in his understanding of reality, which is also absolutely not correct. And also there is Ukraine and the Ukrainians who were attacked and who are fighting for the land. They live in other reality, which is closer, much closer to what is happening in real life compared to those two world leaders in the United States and Russia. So tell me, how negotiation is even possible in this case between United States and Russia? They follow different ways. Totally different. Like exactly 100% the same case as it was with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Donald Trump said to Kim, give up your nuclear program and we're gonna build up your country. We're gonna invest billions and millions of dollars to your country. We're gonna make your people rich. You're gonna have the best perspectives ever that you have never imagined before. Just to look at the future, how bright it really is. Just give up your nukes, Kim. Come on, why are you so bully? But Kim, he doesn't need that. He is okay. He is dictator in his country. His kids will be dictators in his country. He feels absolutely fine. His people are his slaves. He doesn't need those to live their best lives. It is pure misconception of Donald Trump. If he lives in his own environment, like he likes this luxury style, he is a businessman, but North Korean dictator has everything of that already for him personally and for his family. About the rest of the people, he doesn't care. So what Donald Trump wanted to propose here to Kim, what Donald Trump thought would be great, is nonsense for Kim. That's how those entire negotiations with North Korea failed. And later on, Donald Trump just decided to forget about the topic, saying that he stopped the Third World War and nuclear fallout in South Korea. But I remember the time the meeting happened, South Koreans were calling the same stuff to Trump, that it's useless to negotiate with North Korea. They need different things. And actually South Koreans were desperate about this meeting. They were also saying, oh, Donald Trump is betraying us. That's what I heard from some of the pro-Ukrainian voices, but it's I would say it's not like that. Donald Trump just doesn't know the full picture, so he acts according to his own thoughts. And only time may show him that he wasn't right. He would never recognize his own mistakes, but he might change his path and attitude. Donald Trump still doesn't understand the nature of the war. For him, it's the regional conflict between some of the Russian-speaking regions and Ukraine, and later on Russia helped Russian-speaking regions. That's what Russian propaganda says, that they protect the Russian-speaking regions, but actually it's the most devastated areas in Ukraine, where many of the towns and villages were just grounded. So actually I'm satisfied that there is communication between Donald Trump and Putin, because Donald Trump will soon realize that any sort of the peace deal isn't possible with Putin. It's just nonsense to negotiate, like it's the dead-end policy for Donald Trump, because Russia wants to seize Ukrainians' existence. So they're gonna meet in Riyadh or in Moscow, Washington, doesn't matter. And they will talk. I respect you, you respect me, blah blah blah. Exactly the same stuff as it was with North Korean leader. But after a while it's gonna come to the action. Okay, Donnie, Putin will say, I need Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk Oblast fully, Luhansk, because I put them all into my Russian constitution. Yeah, there was some sort of the referendum, fake as usual, you know, but I need those lands. So Trump would call Zelensky and say, you know, Vladimir, give up that territory, just, you know, retreat your forces out. The main big cities of those oblasts, thousands of the square kilometers, should belong to Russia. Do you really think that Zelensky or any sort of the leader of any sort of the country would agree on that? To give the territory with people to Russia without fight? It is just unrealistic scenario. And even in fiction movie, you see how millions of people are leaving their homes just because Putin pushed Donald Trump for this madness. How would Donald Trump look at the situation? So I think that Donald Trump would not even agree to speak about giving to Russia those territories, which means that Russia is not interested to sign any sort of the peace deal. And for Ukraine, actually freezing the war at the current front line is very profitable, because Ukraine needs army reforms, and now Ukrainian army is exhausted. It needs reorganization, resupplement, rebuilding its army from not from the scratch, but really to apply deep reforms, and it's easier to do than there is no full-scale war. So the ceasefire could be a good solution for Ukraine, and Russia wouldn't take more territories, you know. In a way, for Russia it also could be profitable, because they also may reorganize their army. But Russia, as I say to you, is interested in no Ukraine out there, so they will start one more attack. It's 100%. There will be just some time with limited shooting, let's say, on the front lines in case of the ceasefire, but Ukraine, I believe, can do it, can sign this some sort of the peace ceasefire deal. It's not the peace deal, but because it is profitable for Ukraine, Putin would not do it. Well, Russia only could be forced to sign that deal. And who might do it? Well, Donald Trump, if he would see that Putin is not listening to him. I believe that there is a way out, and Donald Trump applies force on Russia, and we have some of the signs about it. Like, I'm surprised to hear the statements from J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, who has almost no sympathy to Ukraine, but he says that there could be threats of sanctions and military action from the United States of America to push Putin into Ukraine deal. Defense Secretary Hexet says that nuclear weapons for Ukraine is up to President Donald Trump, so Donald Trump's solution may bypass everyone's opinion. Other United States officials from the Trump's camp, like Erin Banka, said that NATO membership for Ukraine not off the table, as well as pre-2014 borders. So yesterday we have one information, today we have totally other one. And that's why, guys, I'm calling you not to put too much attention there. The way it develops is in the way it develops. Ukraine will still stay Ukraine. And also I'm sure that Ukraine will bring back all of its territories after the Russian regime collapse. It even might be reached without any sort of the military force. And Putin cannot live forever, it's understandable. But the faster Donald Trump understands that the only way is to push Russia hard and not trade Ukraine for some fiction peace deals, the better it is for everyone. Well, maybe except Russia. Well, in a worst-case scenario, Donald Trump will just abandon Ukraine, will leave it for Europe, cutting all the military support. But the European leaders, even yesterday, they promised their support for Ukraine and will even increase it. For example, German Chancellor Scholz even called for the emergency state in Germany that will allow to allocate more funds for the military. Also, Ukraine gets more support from UK, from Norway. Switzerland will help a lot with Ukrainian humanitarian programs, but it will also reduce the load on Ukrainian budget, so Ukraine may invest more funds into its own military production. So even without the military support from the United States, Ukraine will not be conquered by Russia. Russian army is just exhausted for now. And yes, European leaders also want their interests to be included in negotiations. And the quicker negotiations between Donald Trump and Putin start, the faster Donald Trump will realize that those are useless. So at that moment, Donald Trump will have two of the options. One, to push Putin harder for negotiations, for ceasefire, because Putin is not willing to do it and push Ukraine. How can you push Ukraine? Like surrender, but it's the existential war for Ukraine. So Ukraine cannot be pushed by Trump. Ukraine is fighting against one of the biggest armies out there. It's useless to push Ukraine, let's say. You can cut weapons support, but as I say to you, it resolves really nothing. It will just make Ukraine to suffer more because of the Trump, and Trump wants that reputation? I don't think so. So Trump will have to push Russia in that case, or he just may abandon Ukraine, like leave and forget about it, like something not really popular, because you know Trump is expressive, I may call him. He likes blitzkrieg solutions, renaming Gulf of Mexico and so on. But the Ukrainian war is really complicated. It requires lots of the efforts. Will Trump go full in? Hard to say. Peskov said that the United States is the Russians' main counterpart in talks to end war. So you see, not even Ukraine, but Russia together with the United States, they cannot call Ukraine. Well, they can call Ukraine to surrender, but Ukraine will never do it. Because again, for Ukraine, it's the existential war. Ukraine will never accept Russia after what they've done to the country. And Russia wants to put their puppet government in Kiev. And still you see how Russia sees United States as the main counterpart, as the main, let's say, enemy for them in Ukraine. In Russian leadership's sick mind, United States is responsible for everything. But realities, well, they're quite different. And before, Peskov said that negotiations should be started from the very origin of this conflict, of why it happened. So what could be an origin? Russia issues list of demands, says it must be met to lower tensions in Europe. Basically, Russia called NATO to withdraw the forces from several of the countries, which are not far away from the Russian border. Russia said that NATO is a threat for them and they want to get rid of the NATO forces. And it also happened in 2021. It was demand from Russia before they started the war in Ukraine, like full-scale war. Well, it means that demands of Putin in the possible future negotiations would be to NATO to withdraw the forces from European countries. And do you think that Trump would support that? I don't think so. And the most important thing, guys, now Ukraine obtains military support from the United States of America. Like nothing extraordinary if we judge just actions happened. Just some blah 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 talks as it was before during the first presidency of Donald Trump. They just continue, maybe on a larger scale. I promised you that you will not be bored for the next 4 years, but reality is reality. You cannot change reality. You may live in your own informational bubble, like Donald Trump searching for deals and resources, or like Vladimir Putin, who wants to reincarnate a Soviet Union or a Russian Empire. But all of that has nothing to do with reality. And reality shows that Ukraine will be Ukraine, and it's only up to Ukrainians to decide of what they want to do with their country. And I'm sure that resistance will be there and Russia will not be able to conquer Ukraine. By the way, that's why Russia is so desperate with their provocations, trying to show that they are so mad that they want to start a new nuclear disaster. Yeah, usual Russia. So guys, don't be pessimistic in any way. Everything will be fine. Everything will be Ukraine. As usual, my friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.